Hello everyone, Recapped Mystery here. Welcome back. Today, I'm going to explain a comedy drama science fiction mystery film called The Virgin Psychics. Watch out and take care. Yoshiro Kamogawa, a high school student, is the film's protagonist. He spends the most of his time. He spends much of his days aimlessly and is only average in school. When it comes to popularity, Yoshiro is shunned by practically all of the girls at his school because they think he's a jerk. However, one day, everything shifts. Yoshiro then reaches a climax by fantasizing about other girls. However, Yoshiro is preoccupied with discovering the girl of his destiny. Thus he has a difficult time choosing only one. He had already met her while they were still inside their mother's wombs in a hospital. They talked telepathically and vowed to meet soon by employing a particular melody, which is their hidden code. Images of his sweetheart now enter his head. Fragments. Yoshiro notices her waving at him, and the two kiss on tiptoes. Back in the present, as Yoshiro considers her and prepares to climax, in far space, a rare cosmic phenomena occurs, and a shaft of light beams on him. He is taken aback but doesn't think much of it. Muko, Yoshiro's classmate, is also present. The Rano is also fantasizing about having coitus. Therefore she is struck by the odd light. When Yoshiro sits down for breakfast with his mother and her boyfriend the next morning, he has an unusual ability to hear their inner thoughts. Yoshiro is outraged by the indecent behavior and lustful thoughts of his mother and her boyfriend. He abandons his breakfast and heads home. I was still perplexed about everything when I left for school. At school, he is once again bombarded by everyone's attention, internal ideas. He hears his teacher acknowledge to herself telepathically that she wants to be a teacher. While disciplining female students for wearing short skirts, she is the hottest female in school. Yoshiro, his best friend, soon joins them, and the two youngsters marvel as a lovely girl named C arrives at the location. C is a new student, and Yoshiro is immediately taken with her beauty. A blast of wind raises C's skirt, exposing her undergarments. This results in Yoshiro and his male companion had an instant and obvious hard-on. Muko observes it from a distance, close, and begins to make fun of the two lads. This clearly enrages Yoshiro, so he begins. He was mentally berating her. To his surprise, he discovers that Muko can also read people's minds. To Professor Asami of Tokyo University and his aide Miss Akiyama discussing the town's rumor of psychic activity. It transpires out Professor Asami has been studying extrasensory perception, ESP, for some time. As a result, he had become a laughingstock among his colleagues. Elsewhere, Yoshiro, who is perplexed, purchases a book about TSP after school. Telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, and clairvoyance are among examples. Later, while driving home, Yoshiro comes by to see his filthy elder guy pal Teru. Teru is the owner of a restaurant, and spends his free time contemplating coitus. He presents adult toys to Yoshiro, and also demonstrates his telekinetic ability, which allows him to lift objects without using his hands, physically touching them. Teru's influence, however, is strangely limited to sexual things. The next day, Yoshiro resolves to contact C, but on his way, he reads Inomoto's diary, thinking, and discovers that he intends to strip naked in front of C and other girls. Yoshiro makes an attempt to stop him, but Inomoto has the ability to teleport from one location to another. He leaves. He enters the girls' locker room and exposes himself, but his plan fails miserably. Right then, Professor Asami and Ms. Akiyama face the new psychics and summon them to his residence. During the operation, it is discovered that Miss Akiyama possesses an unusual psychic power. She is powerful. She has precognition, which allows her to predict the future of everyone who glances at her bra. Yoshiro, Teru, Inomoto, Muko, and another frightening student named Yabe are among the new psychics. Yabe is discovered to be clairvoyant, which allows him to see through objects. Soon after, Professor Asami introduces himself and reveals that he has been studying ESP for many years, for quite some time. He also discloses that Yoshiro and the others gained their abilities as a result of a cosmic event, phenomenon. It turns out that they are not the first to develop ESP. Duluth, Minnesota, 200 years ago, Another psychic awakening occurred in Minnesota. When the planets were aligned, cosmic rays struck the city, aligned in a particular way, and imparted these powers to some people. This time around, similar cosmic rays have struck Japan. Yoshiro and others were given ESP because they met certain criteria. First and foremost, they are virgins. They have never experienced coitus. Second, they were all aroused when the rays arrived in town. Third, they were aware of their own strength. According to Asami, he and his research team have been attempting to harness this energy from make room for good. He also adds that the American psychics were murdered by other wicked forces, psychics. This implies that there are other psychics in town who may abuse their powers, their abilities. Asami informs the group that they must safeguard their town from the disaster that befell Duluth. Right then, she emerges from the laboratory, revealing herself to be Professor Asami's daughter. The film then switches to the residence of a ferry captain named Akiko Kamiya, who has also gained psychic abilities. She recently came out as a lesbian and is currently on a mission. Her objective was to locate a girlfriend. However, because she is ignored by everyone, she has begun to abuse her power by freezing other girls and exploiting them. Later that night, tens of thousands of adult dolls are dumped in Yoshiro's high school. Professor Asami, Ms. Akiyama, and some investigators rush to the site. Upon closer examination, Asami discovers that the dolls have been loaded with an aphrodisiac. He collects a drug sample and orders Ms. Akiyama to keep the news from Yoshiro and others in order to keep them from panicking. Yoshiro's school gets a new instructor the next day. She is a Japanese woman. Mia Polnareff is an American lady. Ms. Polnareff is quite sexy. She gives a passionate statement in her first engagement with the pupils. She claims that the planet is in trouble, and people have lost hope. As a result, everyone should be erotic and accept love. Polnareff later notices Yoshiro staring at she. She walks up to him and rests her hand on his head, and, lo and behold, she reads Yoshiro's memory and claims to be the girl of his destiny before leaving. Her two barely clothed female assistants. Polnareff, it turns out, is also a psychic. Meanwhile, after examining the adult doll sample, Professor Asami concludes that the stuff is not from the Earth. He is concerned that it is part of the bad psychic's plot. In the following scene, we are transported to the home of psychic lesbian Akiko, where a large group of high school girls appear to be under some sort of enchantment. Before you go anywhere, board Akiko's ferry. Later, Akiko can be seen standing by the river and blowing some mysterious powder from her mouth over the entire town. Teru follows Yoshiro and Muko to school the next day after learning about their situation. Ms. Polnareff and her sensual personality. They are surprised to see that all of the students are dressed and barely clad. Ms. Polnareff approaches the trio and, using her ability, she discovers that Muko and Teru have psychic abilities as well. Not only the high schoolers, but the entire town appears to be under some sort of enchantment, and they are walking. They move around in their pants. Following that, a group of female cosplayers kidnaps several innocent people. At the city hall, civilians are being held hostage. They threaten the mayor of the city to meet their various demands. Otherwise, they will injure the hostages. Among their demands are that love hotels become, nudist beaches should be legalized, and the adult business should be pushed. Among other things, Professor Asami and Ms. Polnareff come soon after, and the latter demands to speak with the leader of the protesters. Just then, Akiko takes a step forward and reveals she's the one responsible for everything. She also displays her telepathic abilities and goes on a rampage against greedy humans. She then directs her girls to attack Asami and the others. A mystery woman enters and casts a spell on Akiko's troops, instantly turning them into zombies, adult dolls that are lifeless. Akiko is taken aback and departs the situation instantly. Everyone is attempting to. In order to make sense of what transpired, the strange woman likewise vanishes without introducing herself. She and her pals walk past Akiko's house after school. The threat was unknown to them. The aura of the mansion frightens she's pals, and they flee. However, Akiko manages to kidnap she. She then makes Miko her victim as well. The town quickly spirals out of control. Everyone is suddenly preoccupied with coitus, and they are constantly thinking evil thoughts. The sight of all the women in town wearing bikinis gives every male but. Teru is a continual jerk. He feels ashamed since he is unable to get it up, but Miss Polnareff consoles him, implying that a man's worth is not just based on his masculinity. Following that, Yoshiro receives a phone call from C. She invites him to meet her in the garden. Yoshiro sees C run up to him, just like in his dream. Long, lovely legs, humming the jingle and swinging her hands, she expresses gratitude to him for assisting her father with his ESP research before leaning in for a kiss on her tiptoe and requesting intercourse. Yoshiro is surprised since he did not expect C to be so forthright. Suddenly, the mysterious woman appeared. Yoshiro is horrified when a character from earlier in the film emerges and transforms C into an adult doll. When Professor Asami and the others arrive, the woman introduces herself as Julie Babcock, a Duluth psychic. She says that several psychics survived the Duluth slaughter and that they are still alive. Went underground. Julie is descended from those psychics. She has traveled all the way to Japan to see me, avert another tragedy like her hometowns. Meanwhile, a detective searches for Akiko's whereabouts, residence and discovers that she has been abducting girls from her neighborhood. She informs the Professor Asami, and the latter swiftly devises a strategy. He dispatches Yoshiro disguised as a girl to entice the kidnapper towards him while the others hide. Unfortunately, Akiko spots Miss Akiyama behind a pole and begins hypnotizing her. But first, the psychic lady can read her destiny by displaying her bra. Akiko bolts immediately. Ms. Akiyama reveals that she is on her way to the city hall. Professor Asami and his group rush to the municipal hall, where they discover all of the kidnapped girls unconscious. They also discover, in the corridor, there are other girls claiming to be C. The unsettling psychic, Yabe's clairvoyance reveals that they are all clones. After a while, Akiko enters with her army of scantily dressed girls, but Julie is nowhere to be found. Some of them are immediately transformed into dolls. Akiko, enraged, dispatches additional females to assault Yoshiro and others before fleeing. While the group is dealing with the army of girls, Ms. Polnareff seizes Yoshiro and leads him to safety. Yoshiro pursues her, but she ignores him, takes him to the stage and confines him inside an enclosure. Ms. Polnareff then pulls back the curtains, presenting 3 life-size cutouts of pregnant women. It turns out that she had Yoshiro in her custody, captive inside the womb of one of the cutouts. Following that, it is revealed that C and Muko have been dating, held hostage in the wombs of the other 2 cutouts. Yoshiro notices this and approaches the females, are distressed by their circumstances. Muko begins singing the particular song to calm herself down. Jingle. Yoshiro is taken aback when he realizes that the girl of his destiny is none other than Muko. He informs her that it is he whom she agreed to meet after giving birth. As a result of this, the two shed joyful tears, and Yoshiro finally sees Muko's face in the dream scenario running up to him, with long legs. Ms. Polnareff interrupts them before they can kiss, prompting him to snap of his dream. She then states that she taught Muko that song, much to Yoshiro's surprise. Meanwhile, with Julie's assistance, Professor Asami and his gang transform Akiko's troops into dolls. With nothing else to turn, Akiko admits defeat but warns them that her master, Ms. Polnareff, is on the way. They will be taught a lesson. Julie then purifies her spirit, revealing that Akiko was only a child. Ms. Polnareff's puppet on stage. Professor Asami has finally figured it out thanks to this knowledge. It turns out that the crafty Polnareff has the capacity to manipulate people's memories. She removes, rewrites, transplants, and even manipulates memories to suit her wants. Meanwhile, Ms. Polnareff directs her henchwoman to accompany C and Muko. As she attempts, Professor Asami and others arrive to get closer to Yoshiro. Teru wonders her motivations. Ms. Polnareff claims she is doing all of this to eradicate humanity from the planet. Humans are despised because they abuse nature and are greedy. Only God's chosen ones will survive. Ms. Polnareff then declares Yoshiro to be the chosen one and reveals her feelings for him. She also admits that she is unable to control his memory due to her affections for him. Right then, Julie interrupts her speech to purify her soul, but to her surprise, Polnareff appears, has no malicious intent, and in an instant, she had overpowered Julie and knocked her out. Ms. Polnareff is attacked by the other psychics, but she effortlessly defeats them and erases their memories. Then she turns to Yoshiro and asks him to accompany her, threatening to murder him if he does not. To begin with, the innocent schoolboy disagrees. But when Ms. Polnareff recalls the fate of the Earth, he changes his mind. He acknowledges that it is dependent on him. She then takes him to a nursery where she has transformed Muko and herself were transformed into children. Polnareff says she wishes she could be a youngster again. Unlike adults, children have pure spirits. Yoshiro, on the other hand, refuses to become a youngster and maintains he'd rather be an adult. As an adult, you can climax and have coitus. His erotic rhetoric quickly disgusts Polnareff, who wishes to be a woman, not a toy, but the girl of his destiny. As a result, she screams in anguish and vows to leave for good. After Polnareff leaves, the town returns to normal, and everyone is happy. Thank you, Yoshiro, for making it possible. To them, he is nothing short of an avenger. When Yoshiro arrives at school the next day, he finds all of the girls singing his favorite song, Jingle. He is perplexed and wonders how everyone knows about it. The film concludes with narration, discloses that Yoshiro's mother sat in a tram with a number of pregnant women. After she exited the hospital, Yoshiro connected telepathically from her womb with all of the unborn girls present. All of them are now his soulmates. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. To assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.